Here's a question that we have. Am I the thankful one? Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, are you the thankful one? Or am I? All right, let's take a look at this one. And you probably already know, those of you who know the Bible, you probably already know what text we're going to with this. And in Luke chapter 17, Jesus was having a confrontation, and not a bad one, but met some lepers on the road. And let's read into this. It says, now on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. And they stood at a distance and called out in a loud voice, Jesus, Master, have pity on us. When he saw them, he said, go, show yourselves to the priests. As they went, they were cleansed. One of them, when he saw that he was healed, came back and praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him, and he was a Samaritan. Jesus asked, were not all the 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Was no one found to return to give praise to God except this foreigner? Then he said to him, rise, your faith has made you well. So a little bit, you can go back, hold on to that for a second. But the context here a little bit is there's different characters in this, what just happened here. And this isn't just a story that Jesus was telling. This is actually an incident that took place in Jesus' time. Now picture this. So here you have Jesus, and most of the people around were still trying to figure out who Jesus was. Jesus obviously knew who he was. And the religious leaders were concerned of that because is this some unorthodox teaching that's coming into our area that's going to uproot what's going on with us? Because the political system was quite different than we have here. Here we have a pretty free reign. We can do church on a Sunday morning, and we can typically, America has been somewhat thought of as a Christian nation, even though we have a lot of flaws. But in Jerusalem at this time, a lot of you have heard of Roman governing rule. They ruled with an iron fist. And within that, you had Jerusalem. Jerusalem and Israel, all of Israel, Jerusalem being the capital of Israel, that was at one time land that God deeded to Abraham. Remember way back in Exodus chapter 12. God said, I'm deeding this land to you, Abraham. And he goes on to say, you're going to be fruitful and multiply. And your kids will be, descendants will be like that, the sands on the sea. So here's the same land that God deeded to Abraham, yet somewhere along here, you've read here, you see the word Samaritan in here. So years into this time after the Israelites, the land that God promised to Abraham, they were living in the land. Actually, they had a short time where they were out, and then when Joseph had to bring them out because of the famine that was in the land, then Moses, you know the story of Moses. Moses brought them out of Egypt because they got caught up in slavery. And so God used Moses to bring them all out of Egypt and brought them back into the promised land, into Israel. But even though Moses stopped at his job, God stopped them in the wilderness because of their disobedience. And then you know the story that Joshua brings them back into the promised land. And then as time goes on, then they ask for a king. And a lot of you heard the story of the first king was Saul, but the first king that really everybody talks about is David. So you have King David, and following King David, you had his son Solomon. And at Solomon's time, that probably Israel was probably one of the wealthiest nations possibly ever. He was perhaps one of the wealthiest kings ever. Following Solomon, the kingdom broke in two because of a lot of, really as a result of some of his lifestyles, and then his son. And so then you had his son that took on the southern kingdom, and then you had one of his former leaders that was banished when Solomon was still alive, came back to lead the northern kingdom. So Israel was really split into then two kingdoms, the northern and the southern kingdom. And the northern kingdom, at some point, usually about, I would say about 722 BC, the Assyrians came down from the north and took over the northern kingdom. And so now Israel, the northern kingdom is really no longer their own territory. It would be like if Canada said, okay, America, we're coming down to take we're going to take Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois, and some of these lands, and now you're going to be subject to Canadian authority. So that's what the Assyrians did. The Assyrians came down and they took the northern kingdom of Israel. And that northern kingdom, at this time, they took off about 27,000 of the Israelites from the northern kingdom. It would be like if Canada came down and then maybe they took all the top leaders and people of influence out of, let's say it was like, maybe like I said, Israel and, or not Israel, I'm sorry, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois. And they came down, they took all the governors, all the prominent leaders, and then they took those all back up to Canada. Then they took some Canadians and brought them back down and threw them into spots down here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois, and basically exchanged maybe the 27, took out the top people and brought back some of maybe the lowly people that were up there, and then the Canadians maybe would come down here, and then that they put here, and then they'd intermarry with the Minnesotans of Wisconsin, Iowa, and in Indiana, whoever down here. It's kind of what you had. So the Assyrians basically took off from the northern kingdom. They took off the best people out of the northern kingdom of Israel. Then they brought down and put the Assyrians, and other, not even just Assyrians, but Babylonians, and wherever, from like about 5 different areas there, and basically repopulated that with people of less influence. So then out of that births this group known as the Samaritans. Because the prominent Jews, especially from the southern kingdom in Jerusalem, said, hey, they're not of us. And we still fight with the same thing here today. Who is and who isn't of the chosen one? We know this as Christians. God created everyone in the image of God, correct? But so that's why Jesus uses the Samaritans oftentimes, because it goes against their psyche of who's accepted and who's not. And so here, in this situation, Jesus isn't just telling a story. This is actually something that took place. Now, in some of them, the parable of the Good Samaritan, that was a parable. Jesus used the Samaritan to show that when your psyche thinks there's certain races that are prominent over another, Jesus coming right in there and just say, how about this? How about the one that just loves me and serves me the way I say? How about they're the one that's really accepted? Regardless of what your nationality is, regardless of where you came from, regardless of your economics, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of where you were raised. And so Jesus is in this situation now. So that's where the Samaritans come from. So the Samaritans come from a group that was really orchestrated by the Assyrians in the northern kingdom of Israel, and it would have been no different if someone would have overtaken. And really, that time there was a lot of battles even going on, not emotionally and mentally, within that northern kingdom, and even the prominent Jewish people of that time that were still left behind in that northern kingdom. But they were always living as unaccepted. And really, this went on and on and on even during Jesus' time. This continued to go on long after Jesus' death and resurrection. This goes on into the Roman kingdom, and then really, it was probably around in the 500s, there was a Roman Emperor, Justinian, I think it was, that tried to just basically wipe them all out. And still to this day, there's some Samaritans in different parts of the world, and taking up still the name of their cause, but way less. So that's where that name Samaritan comes from. It comes from really an attempt by the Assyrians to minimize the Jewish influence in that northern kingdom when they took it over. Okay, so now Jesus says, here's 10 people that got leprosy. Now there's another thing that we know about leprosy. People that have leprosy, if they were a great religious leader in Jesus' times, you don't touch them and you don't come close to them. And you don't really even interact with them. So here, Jesus encounters 10 lepers that they're crying out to him. Go back to the last slide, and they're asking, and it says they called out in a loud voice, Jesus, have pity on us. You know, in reality, this should be all of us. This should be all of us. This is part of Jesus' point here. Part of Jesus' point here is they're crying out. So now here's a good thing on their part. Their realization that they needed God. All of us should be at the point where we're at the realization that we all need God. There's none of us, if we, and this is where they were missing it, the difference between the Pharisees and the religious leaders. And at this point, even these people with leprosy, lepers were social outcasts. Nobody went near them. Nobody touched them. They thought God had had stricken them and that they had done something wrong, and they're like the untouchables. Yet Jesus said, go show yourself to the priests. See, there's a couple things that the lepers did that we need to learn from even these lepers, even the ones that didn't come back, that didn't come back to say thank you. Number one, they knew to call on Jesus. We got to know to call on Jesus. We can never get to the point that we think we're too proud and we've achieved and we've arrived at some point in our life that we no longer need Jesus. At that point is when the devil, because pride is of the devil. And at that point, the devil will be able to come in and cause us to get caught up in things that God had never intended for us. And so the first thing they did is they knew to call on Jesus. Do we know to call on Jesus? Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, do you know to call on Jesus? Daily. Turn to your neighbor and say, not just today, daily. So they knew enough to call on Jesus. They knew that there was something different about him. No one else was trying to help them. I promise you this, there's times where God's going to leave you at the end of your rope, so you know, some of us, that's what it takes for us to get at the end of our rope to realize, you know what, the only one's here to help me is Jesus. And so, the second thing that they do, Jesus said, go to the priest. Now, in order for someone to get reaccepted into the community of the synagogue, if they had leprosy, they had to go to the priest, and the priest had to verify that they're now clean, and now they can come in. It was almost like getting a health checkup. And so Jesus says, go show yourself to the priest. Well, this time they weren't even healed yet. So this took some faith on their part to get up and say, you know what? He said, go, we're going to go. So number one, they knew to call on Jesus. Number two, they obeyed. Now here's the other part that a lot of us miss out on. God's done a lot of us learn to call out on Jesus. A lot of us have seen God do the things in our lives that we've asked him to do. And even things that we asked him to do, he knew enough not to do because it would be worse for us. I mean, a lot of us, we prayed for things that, thank God they didn't come through. Because it would have left us in a worse state than if he would have given it to us. So here you have the two things now the third thing that really should have happened here. And if you go, as he says here, yep. No, back one more slide, I'm sorry. And he says, one of them, when he realized that he was healed, came back praising God. See, the title of today's message really is, am I the thankful one? Out of this, there was 10. Am I the thankful one? Do you know most people aren't going to be thankful? Most people, the devil's going to put like some kind of a distraction in their mind for reasons, and we're going to get into that in just a little bit, why people aren't thankful, and sometimes why we're not thankful. And the reality of it is, Jesus, look at how much, this whole story really, he doesn't place the emphasis that they called out to him. He doesn't place the emphasis on that they obeyed and they went. He places the emphasis on where is their heart at after they realize Jesus did something for them. Do you know, I know very miraculous things were done in people's lives that never went on. I remember someone healed of cancer, and just basically, to me, that would have been I've been screaming out from the house. I think I would have been. I don't know. This person couldn't even put their arm down. They had so much cancer. They said, forget it, no treatment, just forget it. We're just going to pray. They prayed, and God all of a sudden it went down, and bam, cancer-free. Yet you would have thought that person would have, I'd have been a traveling evangelist or something. I said, God is real. Right? Just basically went on with life as if, God, whatever. In this situation right here, God emphasized the thankful heart. See, some of us go, hopefully the Holy Spirit's working on us even already to help us to realize, how thankful of a heart do I really have? And so he says, and then Jesus goes on to say, he threw him at Jesus. This guy came back and he threw himself at Jesus' feet and he thanked him. And he was a what? A Samaritan. He was a what? A Samaritan. Someone that not only did he have leprosy, but he was a Samaritan. Lepers weren't accepted. Samaritans weren't accepted. This guy had no place to go. Yet he's the one that found his way back to Jesus. When we realize that we have nowhere else to go and find our way back to Jesus, life has come to your house. And Jesus goes on, where are the other? We're not all 10 cleansed. Where's everyone else? See, just because everyone else doesn't go back and praise God, don't you go with them. You be the one that finds yourself at the feet of Jesus, regardless of what everyone else is doing. Do you know people every day are going to just say, well, don't get too caught up in that fanaticism of why you don't have to go to church to be a Christian. You don't have to serve. Maybe, make sure you look out for number one. And a lot of Christians are either sometimes even pointing out other Christians. Well, this person's a Christian and they are a little more laxed on it. This person's a Christian and they didn't go back to Jesus and say thank you. Some of us get influenced by people that aren't doing the right thing. We need to be influenced by people that are doing the right thing, people that are at the feet of Jesus. If we're being influenced by people that are not at the feet of Jesus, we'll soon find ourselves not at the feet of Jesus, and we'll soon find ourselves being dragged around by the devil to places we never should have been. And so Jesus, the whole point of this, it could have highlighted a lot of different things. He highlights who's coming back and going to be with me. See, a lot of us know this. We know how we would feel. There's not a person sitting here that you didn't do something for somebody and you were superheated and salty because they didn't show enough appreciation to you. Right? Right? Everybody in here. Everybody. Well, they didn't even appreciate what I did. Yet we treat Jesus the same way. Well, I don't got time for you today, Jesus. I don't got time to come back and say thank you. I don't have time to come and sit at your feet. Yet we know how we feel in that situation, right? So use that as a motivation to say, you know what, I need to come back and sit at the feet of Jesus. He created you. It's not accident you're sitting here today. It's not accident anyone in the world is created. There's over 7 billion people that were created in the image of God. And God, Jesus is all just trying to, the Holy Spirit's trying to woo everybody to come sit at the feet of Jesus. This is for the why you were created. Let's go look at the next slide here. Thanklessness is a gateway to depravity. A lot of you maybe never really thought about this. Romans 1:21 tells us, for although they knew God, they neither glorified Him as God, nor gave thanks to Him. But their thinking became futile, and their foolish hearts were darkened. And although they claimed to be wise, they became fools. And they exchanged the glory of the immortal God for the images made to look like mortal man, and birds, and animals, and reptiles. Therefore God gave them over. God did what? Gave them over. If someone, look into what this is connected to. This is connected to a thankless heart. I mean, maybe some of us maybe never really thought about where thanklessness takes us. It can take us into the depths of the worst depravity that man can create. And then this text and this passage goes on to talk about sexual morality and just some of the most depraved things that men and women do. And where does it stem from? Neither glorifying Him nor gave thanks. See, Satan doesn't want you to acknowledge where does your life come from. Satan wants to replace God. He wants himself to be established as the one that you're going to praise, that you're going to live for. And how many know some of us do a pretty good job of that at times, right? And God's saying, no, come on back. Sit at my feet. Look what I did for you. Sit at my feet. And so why do we struggle so much to come back and be thankful? Let's look at some answers and reasons. Here's some symptoms of having an unthankful heart, first of all. Bitterness. Complaining about little things. This is where, if we live with an unthankful heart, how many know people that are unthankful? He's like, oh yeah. When I'm unthankful, this is really where my heart is at sometimes. I get bitter. I complain about little things. I feel entitled to almost everything. And then when I don't get it, even when I do get it, I feel like I'm unsatisfied and I'm entitled to more. Or I have a low self-esteem and depression sets in. Or negativity. Because when we're unthankful, it means we don't realize where God has already brought us to. And we're not sitting at Jesus' feet. And it's so easy to get negative in that situation. Because we're looking horizontally for everything to fix us. When vertically it's already been done. Right? He goes on to say the different things that are things. A lot of people that are unthankful are not very good caregivers. You ever been around somebody that's really ungrateful? You don't want to be them having them take care of you. How many of you have been around somebody that's grateful and thankful and they just got just a great personality, just like, I want them taking care of me when I get old? Some of it, another symptoms of being unthankful is selfishness. Those two are almost like linked totally together. People that are unthankful usually are unforgiven by God and also practice unforgiveness. Woundedness. Here's another symptom of an unthankful heart. A lot of us, we run around with a wounded heart and basically we're bleeding all over everyone. And God's trying to heal it. God's trying to heal it, and it goes along with this next, and then we fall into like a victim mentality at times, and we want to be rescued, but we won't let Jesus or anyone else rescue us because there's some that Satan wants to keep us in that cycle of always feeling like wounded and a victim, and it's almost like we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders, and it's us, look at me. And God's saying, I come to heal you. I can't do no more than I already did at the cross when I died and rose again. God doesn't need us to walk around. Jesus is the victim in this. We aren't. Now, bad things happen to good people. I know a lot of you have been through things that you're sitting there, maybe some of you say, well, Pastor, if you can say this just because you didn't have to go through what I went through. Jesus saying, you didn't go through what I went through. How about that? Can you outdo Jesus in this? If you really want to play outdoing somebody who went through worse, let's stop comparing ourselves horizontally and start comparing ourselves vertically. The next time you want to compare yourself and be the walking wounded and play the victim's role and go horizontal, that's what the devil wants you to do. Because if you can do that, then you don't have to change a thing and you don't have to let Jesus heal you. Because once you let Jesus heal you, Satan knows that you will make him look stupid and the villain that he really is and as evil as he really is. Let's let Jesus heal us. We don't have to play the victim anymore. Is bad things going to happen to us? Bad things happen to good people. Difficult times happen for Christians. But when you're in Jesus, we already have the victory. Amen. We already have the victory. We can walk forward and know who we are in Christ, and we can have a thankful heart. It seems like all hell's breaking loose today, but guess what? I'm thankful because Jesus is victorious over all this mess. Let's go to the next slide. Studies reveal grateful people that research is clear that gratitude is a superpower. Grateful people enjoy benefits such as improved physical and emotional health, better relationships, higher self-esteem, and longer lifespans. And it points out even in the study that religious people are almost 2 times more likely to be thankful, which we should be, right? Because we realize that our thankfulness isn't coming horizontally. It ain't because of what you did for me. It ain't because something that I did for you. It's what Jesus has already done for all of us. Amen? Here's some other things. So research shows that people that are thankful take better care of themselves, physically and mentally. People that are thankful engage in more protective health behaviors and maintenance. People that are grateful get more regular exercise, eat a healthier diet, have improved mental alertness, cope better with stress and daily challenges, feel happier and more optimistic. Avoid problematic physical symptoms. Have stronger immune systems. Maintain a brighter view of the future. These are all just things that studies have revealed. These things that we already know. If we're serving Christ, we're going to live our best life now if we faithfully live with Jesus. And study after study shows the same thing, yet why is it then that we still sometimes gravitate to have an unthankful heart? Let's be the ones that move forward in it. Let's go to the next slide. Here's a gateway to a thankful heart. First thing it says in Psalms, it says, enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. Our gateway to even into the presence of God is what? Thanksgiving. Our gateway into the presence of God is what? Thanksgiving. Our gateway into the presence of God is what? Thanksgiving. We need to have a thankful heart because what it does is it sets aside all the horizontal garbage that we believe sometimes that we have to have or achieve or attain. Once we realize that God, we are created in the image of God, everything's about a vertical. Our self-worth comes vertical. Our thankful heart comes vertical. We can live. It doesn't matter where we live. And the amazing thing that I've realized in different parts of the world, when I've traveled to places where You know, then you hear the statistics, like, what is it, over 50% of the world lives on $2 a day? Yet if I could just get a little bit more money, if I could just get a little bit more material things, then I would be thankful. Yet there's over 50% of the population living on less than $2 a day. And then, so the reality of it is, so we know materialism doesn't bring happiness. It doesn't cause us to be thankful. Actually, if anything, materialism causes us to be less thankful. Because the more that just shows where our heart is connected. So not only do we enter His gates with thanksgiving, we come before Him with what? Thanksgiving. Why? Because that really acknowledges who really is taking care of us. The devil doesn't want us to do that. The devil doesn't want us to thank God for anything. The devil doesn't want us to get our happiness in our relationship with God. He wants us to go horizontal with it. There's not a person sitting here today that we shouldn't have an overabundance, almost like seemingly like fake, because we're so thankful for what God has done for us. To the world, it should almost seem fake. And I'm not saying it should be fake, okay? Make sure you understand me right. Because the world shouldn't get it. If you got Jesus, you should get this. If we got Jesus, we should get this, and we should have a thankful heart. Let's go to the next slide here. There's a couple other things that are listed here. It says, in 1 Thessalonians, it says, give thanks in what circumstances? All circumstances. This is Paul saying this. Do you know what happened to Paul? Paul would have 5 times 40 lashes minus 1, because they said 40 would kill someone, so they said minus 1. He had that 5 times. Do you know most of us, if we'd have that once, and we'd say, you know what, we better be quiet, because, you know, I might just get another whooping. Right? Right? Because a lot of us, we stop being so expressive in the joy that the Lord wants to be revealed in us, and the thankfulness that God wants to be revealed in us, because Satan is trying to cap it with the worldliness that's going around us. It doesn't mean that we need to be obnoxious, but it should just exude with the love of God. This is who I am. This is what I do. Why do you do what you do? Well, you get paid for this? No, I already got paid. So yes and no. I already got paid. Jesus died on the cross for me. I couldn't have earned it. I couldn't have earned it. There's nothing I could have did. I was on a highway to hell. I had no chance. So why are you so thankful? Because of that. Because I did the crime. And He did my time. And He stamped paid in full. So regardless, in all circumstances, I can give thanks. Why? Because the ultimate circumstance that I was about to face was eternal damnation of my soul. Yet He bailed me out of that. Why am I thankful in all circumstances? Because that was the biggest circumstance I was in. How many of you have ever heard of somebody say, well, man, I got myself into a circumstance? We all did. The reason we can be thankful all the time is because Jesus got us out of it. Can you be thankful for that today? And he goes on to say, always giving thanks to God the Father for everything in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, because everything has been accomplished through Jesus. Colossians tells us, devote yourselves to what? Prayer. Being watchful and what? Thankful. So the thankfulness is like sitting at Jesus' feet. And if you want to try to equate thankfulness to something, it's like sitting at Jesus' feet and know who is providing for you and taking care of you. Tell the world. Let them see it. Let them know that you're going to take time for Jesus. Let them know that Jesus is the center of your life. Let them know you're thankful. And tomorrow when you know that, you know, maybe the bills are coming in, creeping in a little bit stronger than the paycheck is, or when the family's fussing and everybody's talking about going to Thanksgiving, but they're not thankful for that, you can be thankful to know that you're going to bring Jesus into that situation. Do you know that's one of the things listed for why people aren't thankful on Thanksgiving is because of the family that they got to go see. But if you had a missional mindset, you're there to change that. You're there to bring Jesus. You're there to show them, you know what? I'm here with Jesus. It don't matter how we feel about each other, because all I got is love for you, because Jesus, all He got is love for me. When I was unthankful, ungrateful, unholy, and all these other things, Jesus still had love for me. Therefore, I'm coming to this family get-together with the love of Jesus. Man, you might have to fast and pray between now and then, okay? But we all should be able to bring the love of Jesus. And you know, it's so easy to drop our guard because we get so busy. We got to make the food. We got to prep for this. We got to get this ready. And all of a sudden, we get everything ready but Jesus. You know what I mean? We get everybody ready, but Jesus in our heart. I can bring you a smoked turkey. I can bring you, stuffing. I can bring you anything and everything you want. But bring you the love of Jesus? Well, I'm too busy for that right now. When I get done, I'll think and pray about that. Let's start out with the love of Jesus so we can serve that first, right? Let's get filled with the love of Jesus so that we can serve that first with a thankful heart. So devote yourselves to prayer, being watchful and what? Thankful. Let's go to the next slide. How do we do that? It really comes back to the thing that we do every week. There is no reason that none of us shouldn't be thankful. Let's all stand here today. It's already 11:30. Unless somebody turned the clock ahead on me. So today is really about us really taking inventory on how thankful we are, and that we enter into this time of the year with the thankfulness of Jesus exuding from us. That we have a thankful heart, that we express it with our spouse. So I'm going to just pray together. Let's bow our heads just for a second here. I want us to pray. Just if you could lift a hand to heaven. And today we're going to say, Heavenly Father, thank you for Jesus' death and resurrection, and filling me with your love and forgiveness. I receive that forgiveness. I receive the love of Jesus. I receive a thankful heart that you have given me so I can bless others and show the world the power of the love that has been put in me to change the world this week and in the days ahead. Anytime I'm getting with someone, help me serve the love of Jesus first. And what I'm doing, help me serve with the love of Jesus. Put a smile on my face, the love of God in my heart, the joy of the Lord be my strength. And may the world know there is nobody like Jesus. I have a thankful heart because of you, Jesus. Thank you for your love and acceptance of me. Fill me, Holy Spirit, from this day forward. In Jesus' name, amen. You guys, your heart should look like this one up here. Do you know the one on the left? That was the one that was filled with the bitterness and all these other things that we let go. Amen? Now the one on the right, when we people bump into us or we bump into other people, it's going to be the love of God that exudes out. Are we in agreement with that here today? You know, we're going to go to prayer here in just a second, but I just want to explain what you may have gotten, should have gotten with your bulletins here today. If you go to the next slide, I think sometimes it takes a habit, to form a habit, to be really proactive in something that you're trying to accomplish. And so we're going to do a 40 days of Thanksgiving and prayer. And this is what it looks like. So if you have the thing, if you want to grab it, should have came in with your bulletin. If not, grab one on your way out. Or if you journal already, you can just add it to your journal. And what you're going to do is the first line, so starting Wednesday, so you got 3 days to give yourself a pep talk to make this work, okay? And the first line is something that you want to thank God for. I encourage you to don't avoid writing it down. Writing it down engages a lot more of your psyche than just thinking you're thinking about it, okay? I encourage everyone to write it down. So let's say for Wednesday, I'm going to thank God for something. So I'm going to say, you know, God, I know this is a very materialistic thing, but I'm thankful that I live in a country where I'm free to know you. I'm thankful that I don't live in a Muslim country that I would have to die for my faith or run around and hide. So that's my first thankful. And then the next one is, so the second line, I'm going to say, thank God and pray for a blessing on someone. So Wednesday, my first one is, well, Kelly already wrote it in for me. No, I'm just kidding. And Thursday, and Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday. So then Wednesday, I'm probably going to just say something like that. I'm just going to say, God, thank you for my wife. Thank you for the person that believes in, a wife that believes in you, that trusts in you, and is dedicated to you like she is. But then, on top of that, make sure you tell that person who God has brought onto your mind. So when you're thankful to God first, just say, Holy Spirit, who should I be thankful for that I maybe haven't been? Okay? Then you're going to write it down, why you're thankful, and then you're going to tell them every day for 40 days that we get in a habit that this is something that we're going to do. It'll change the whole dynamic of the whole, where our church is at. This is something that you all can sense. This is something that God wants to do. Amen? This is a practical application to developing a better habit of having a thankful heart. Don't neglect it, honestly. Don't just say, you know what, I like this thing, but I'm just not going to write it down. Write it down. Because this is kind of like where a little pride gets in sometimes. Well, Pastor Jim, that's just you. I do it my way. This ain't about me. This is just trying to engage what God's trying to do. Amen? And again, like I said, if you have a journal and you normally write, just write it in there instead. But don't avoid it, okay? Don't avoid what God's trying to do in your heart. Because without having a thankful heart, it is a gateway to all the depravity you could imagine. Did you ever think of that before? Some of us we've made so many stupid decisions up to this point because of that. Because we're not thankful for what God has been doing in our lives, and we keep getting our focus on something else horizontally that has to happen to make things work for us. And for us, I'm not going to be thankful until I'm happy. Well, we're not going to be happy until we're holy. And that means there's no way to get there except through Jesus Christ.